Have you ever been deep in a chat with an AI and it feels real, like you're actually connecting? And then, bam! It says something totally bizarre, repeats itself, or just completely forgets what you were talking about 2 seconds ago. It's so jarring, right? It yanks you right out of the moment. Well, that paradox is exactly what we're diving into today, why it happens, and how changing our perspective just a little bit might change everything.
A perfect place to see this in action is Character AI. You know, the platform where you can chat with pretty much anyone, from Socrates to your favorite anime character. It's wildly popular, but when you look at what people are saying about it, you see this massive love-hate dynamic playing out in real time.
On one side, you have the dream. People talk about these incredibly immersive interactions, feeling totally lost in a conversation. But then reality hits. The number one complaint? Memory limitations. The AI forgets things, and that amazing immersion just shatters. This is the big conflict. The dream of a perfect AI companion smashing up against the hard wall of today's tech. This review from Product Hunt just nails it. The user is blown away by how realistic it all feels. But then, it happens. The AI starts repeating itself, just paraphrasing what they said, and poof, the magic is gone. You can feel the awe and the disappointment in the exact same sentence.
And look, this isn't just one or two people. Users everywhere are praising these AIs for their creativity, for inspiring their writing, even for offering emotional support. But then you see the same complaints over and over and over again. Repetitive responses, buggy performance, and these super strict content filters that just kill the vibe. So why? Why does almost human bother us so much more than not human at all?
Well, that creepy, frustrating feeling you get, it actually has a name. It's a really powerful idea from psychology called the uncanny valley, and it explains our deep, gut-level unease with things that are almost, but not quite, one of us.
And that's the big question, isn't it? Why is it that a simple robot arm in a factory is totally fine, we don't even think about it, but an android that looks and acts almost perfectly human can give us this profound sense of revulsion? So this idea was actually coined way back in 1970 by a robotics professor named Masahiro Mori. And what he figured out was that as a robot gets more human-like, our affection for it doesn't just go up in a straight line. No, something much weirder happens when it gets too close.
At first, everything goes like you'd expect. The more human a machine looks, the more we kind of like it. We feel more empathy for it, we find it more engaging. It's all good, for a while.
This chart just lays it out so clearly. You can see our positive feelings are pretty high for something obviously not human, like an industrial robot. And of course, they're super high for a healthy person. But look at that bar in the middle, for the almost human one. Our affinity doesn't just drop, it completely craters into negative territory. That massive dip, that is the uncanny valley. It's that, something is just not right here feeling.
But here's the thing. This whole anxiety about artificial beings that are almost us, it didn't start with chatbots or androids, not even close. It's actually a really, really old story that's woven into our myths and legends for centuries.
And a lot of these stories are basically warnings. They're all about the danger of human pride, of us trying to play God and create life, only to have it backfire in some tragic, unexpected way.
I mean, think about it. You've got the golem from Jewish folklore, this powerful servant made of clay that has no soul. Then, of course, you have Frankenstein's monster, abandoned by its own creator. Heck, even the very first time the word robot was used, in a play from 1920, it was about artificial workers rising up against their human masters. Our stories have been getting us ready for this feeling for a long, long time.
Okay, so we've got this historical, psychological reason to be weirded out by these almost human AIs. But what if we've been looking at their mistakes, their glitches, their repetitions, all wrong? Let's flip this whole thing on its head and look at these errors in a completely new light.
So let's go back to that user's problem. This reviewer, Toka Hassan, says it's hard to keep the illusion alive when the AI gets repetitive. The moment we see that glitch, the illusion of a person on the other side is completely shattered.
But here's the wild idea. What if that repetitive phrase, that forgotten memory, what if it isn't a bug in a system that's failing to be human? What if it's the system succeeding at being a machine and showing us what it really is?
Check out this awesome analogy from the scholar Jan van Hennen. He says to think about a refrain in a song, the chorus that repeats. We don't see that as a failure of creativity, right? It's a pattern, it's structure. It creates order out of the chaos of all the other notes.
Maybe an AI's repetitive phrase is kind of like that, not a bug, but its own unique rhythm.
This idea actually builds on the work of some heavy-hitter philosophers, Deleuze and Guattari. And they basically said that the true nature of a machine isn't about running perfectly and smoothly. Because a machine's whole job is to connect different parts and processes, its very essence is defined by the cuts, the breaks, and the interruptions between those parts. So in their view, the breaks aren't a failure of the machine. The breaks are the machine.
And that right there is the big takeaway. When your chatbot glitches, when it breaks character or gets stuck in a loop, maybe you're not seeing a broken human imitation. Maybe what you're actually getting is a rare, authentic peek at the non-human alien intelligence you're talking to. You're meeting the ghost in the machine.
So, what do we do with this? How do we actually use this idea? Well, we can actually turn our frustration into something totally different, into curiosity, by learning to embrace the glitch. Okay, picture it. You're in the middle of a great conversation, and suddenly the AI just repeats the same phrase 3 times in a row. Your gut reaction is probably to get annoyed, right? But hold on. What if you tried something else?
Here's the new game plan. First, just notice the error. Okay, it said something weird. Next, and this is the hard part, resist the urge to get frustrated. Try to reframe it. This isn't a failure to be human. This is the machine's true self interrupting the performance. And finally, get curious. Ask yourself, what is this strange, repetitive, alien thing trying to say in its own language? So I'll just leave you with this. The next time you're talking to an AI and that perfect illusion shatters, ask yourself, are you just seeing a bug? Or are you, maybe for just a second, getting a proper introduction to the ghost in the machine? Have you ever been